The words hit like a slap. We were sitting around the dinner table, my parents, my sister, her husband, and me. The air was thick with tension already. I'd come home for the weekend after months away, hoping maybe we'd have one peaceful meal together. I should have known better. It started small. My sister made a comment about my tiny apartment. My mom laughed, saying, "Well, at least she finally moved out before 40. My dad smirked, pouring himself another drink. But when he leaned back and said, "Let's be honest, no one in this family actually likes you," the whole room went quiet. Even the clock seemed to stop ticking. My stomach dropped. My sister laughed awkwardly, trying to break the silence. "Dad, don't be so harsh," she said, but the way she said it told me she didn't disagree. I looked around. No one met my eyes. My mother folded her napkin neatly, as if I'd become invisible. My brother-in-law cleared his throat and changed the subject to the new car they'd bought. The message was clear. I didn't belong there. I could have shouted, could have reminded them how many times I'd been the one holding this family together. When Mom was sick, I stayed home and took care of her. When Dad lost his job, I used my savings to cover the bills. When my sister needed money for her wedding, I handed it over without hesitation. But what would be the point? They'd already decided who I was, the failure, the outsider, the disappointment. So I stood up slowly, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Thanks for dinner," I said, even though I hadn't eaten much. My dad shrugged. Always so dramatic, he muttered. My mom didn't look up. As I walked out, I heard my sister whisper something like, "She'll come crawling back." Maybe once I would have, but not anymore. That night, sitting in my car outside the house, I felt something shift. The hurt was still raw, but beneath it, a spark of clarity burned through. They'd spent years tearing me down, and I'd let them because I wanted to belong. But maybe belonging wasn't something you beg for. It's something you build. So I drove away, no tears this time, just a quiet promise to myself. I'd make them see what they threw away, not through revenge, but through success they couldn't ignore. The days after that dinner were quiet, almost painfully so. I hadn't realized how much background noise my family had filled my life with, their opinions, their criticism, their constant judgment. And when that noise stopped, I finally heard something else, my own thoughts. At first, it felt empty. I'd wake up in my small apartment, stare at the ceiling, and wonder if maybe they were right. Maybe no one did like me. That voice lingered, whispering their words until I forced myself to get up, make coffee, and turn on my laptop. I threw myself into work. I'd been freelancing as a designer for a few years, barely making enough to scrape by. But now, every project felt like a chance to prove something. To myself, not them. I took extra jobs, stayed up until sunrise polishing designs, learning new tools, improving little by little. One night, I got an email from a small marketing firm. They'd seen my portfolio online and wanted to collaborate on a campaign. It was supposed to be a 2-week job. It turned into a full-time offer. That was the beginning. I started earning real money, more than I'd ever made before. I upgraded my equipment, got a new apartment downtown, and for the first time, I didn't feel small or invisible. I felt capable. My confidence grew quietly, like a seed that had finally found sunlight. Months turned into a year. My life looked different. Clients, travel, stability. I even started mentoring new freelancers, people who reminded me of myself when I started. I built something that no one in my family could take credit for. And then came the message. It was from my sister. "Hey, Mom's birthday dinner this weekend. Everyone's coming. You should too." I stared at my phone, reading the words twice. I hadn't seen any of them since that night. For a moment, my heart clenched. Old habits, old wounds. But then I exhaled slowly and typed back, "Sure, I'll be there." When I walked into the restaurant that night, they were already seated. My mother's eyes widened when she saw me. I looked different now. My clothes fit better, my posture taller, my expression calm. My dad muttered something to my sister, who turned to look too. Didn't think you'd actually show, my mom said flatly. I smiled. You invited me. I didn't want to be rude. Dinner went the same way. As always, shallow conversation, half compliments, and tension simmering under every sentence. But this time, I wasn't tense. I was observing, detached. Their words didn't hit the way they used to. Halfway through, my dad asked casually, "So, you still doing those little online jobs?" I took a sip of water and said evenly, "Actually, I just signed a contract with an international brand. I lead a team of 8 now." Silence. Forks paused midair. My sister blinked. My mom forced a laugh. "Well, isn't that nice?" she said, but her voice trembled. My father leaned back, studying me. For once, he didn't have a joke. He just nodded slowly. "Guess you did okay after all." After dessert, as we were leaving, my mom pulled me aside. "You seem happy," she said quietly. "I am," I replied. "I just stopped needing people who didn't want me around." Her lips parted slightly, but she said nothing. That night, I walked out of the restaurant and didn't look back. My heart didn't ache. There was no anger left, just peace, the kind that comes when you stop proving and start living. They'd mock me for not being enough, but I realized they never saw me clearly in the first place. They saw their own insecurities reflected back, and I'd spent years apologizing for them. Now, I was done apologizing. Months passed after that night at the restaurant, and life finally began to settle into something that felt like peace. My days were full: projects, clients, travel, and quiet mornings spent in a home I built entirely on my own terms. Success didn't come with fireworks. It came with silence, focus, and self-respect. One morning, as I was finishing a client presentation, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my father. "Your mom's been talking about you a lot lately. We're proud of you." 7 words that stopped me cold. I read them again and again, half expecting it to vanish. For years, I would have given anything to hear those words. But now, they didn't feel like the prize I'd imagined. They felt late. Honest, maybe, but late. I smiled anyway and typed back, "I appreciate that." Nothing more, nothing less. Weeks later, I decided to visit. The house looked smaller than I remembered. My mother opened the door, her eyes welling up before she even spoke. She hugged me tighter than she ever had before. My father stood behind her, his usual smirk replaced by quiet guilt. We talked over tea, not about the past, not about what was said at that awful dinner, but about life. My work, their garden, small things that felt almost normal. When I stood to leave, my dad said softly, "You proved us wrong." I met his eyes and said, "I wasn't trying to." That night, driving home, the world outside was calm. Streetlights passed in slow rhythm. And for the first time, I felt light, completely unburdened. They had once convinced me I wasn't worth loving, but I'd learned to love myself enough for all of us. That was the real victory.